made up a little note sheet. There we go. So you can open up that. I put pretty much everything in there.
Wow.
I wasn't sure what exactly. I mean, I put a lot in here, but so I don't know how much we'll be able to talk about. But even if we don't, then I guess you can always take a look. If you want as well, I can even like I mentioned replays and VODs in here, and then anything that's like blue is a VOD, and then most of the other stuff are replays that I have. I could even like put all those in a file to send to you, so you have those to look at too. If we don't get to all this, if you feel like you want to take a look at anything.
Great, thank you.
But yeah, I don't know. I figured, I guess, we can just kind of go through. I don't know exactly what you were expecting to do or get through, but I put everything that I think is worth noting. I did just like a few general just things that he's usually trying to do in each matchup, like his builds and stuff like that. His recent form, what's been happening with him. And then some weaknesses as well that people have been abusing and stuff like that, with examples for most of them. So that's kind of what I was gonna just kind of go through. Figured we could just kind of just talk about it, go through, look at some of the examples if you need to, and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Cool. So I got a lot of the replays, well, all the replays I have over on the Korea server. So is it possible if you jump over on KR and then we can look at those there? Because I don't want to put them all on my other account because I can't do that. The freaking thing where like that little bug that bugged everything out, where you have a bunch of replays in your folder and you can't like load StarCraft anymore. Remember that thing from like a couple months ago? So like half of like all of my almost all of my replays are in a different folder now, and I have to like open that up and find it and then put it in the new folder. It's so dumb. It's crazy.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, there's something with replays. I don't know. It's like really hard to figure out what exactly the replay is that like fucks it over, but like something in like a replay folder with like a replay pack or something messes it up. So anyway, it's annoying.
A lot of bugs with StarCraft.
Small indie game company, no problem.
Exactly.
Okay. Alrighty, so shall I lecture? Is that
yeah, please.
Is that time? Is it time? All right. So basically, Trap going into Katowice is a bit unfortunate because he is on a downward spiral. I'm sure you were fully aware. He is not quite as good as he was at the beginning of the year, and then towards the middle of the year as well for summer. Ever since TSL 8, he had TSL 8 that he had a really good run in. He had GSL Season 3 that he had a pretty good run in. And then everything after that has been pretty mediocre, culminating in the fact that he didn't qualify for Last Chance. And then Super Tournament qualifiers as well was an absolute travesty where he barely got through. And then he got dumpstered anyway. So he's not looking hot, basically. He's like mixing up a bunch of stuff, like some stuff he's kind of switching in because I think he's a little unsure of what he wants to be doing right now with his build choices and his overall style. Like you and everyone knows him as like the very well-rounded Protoss that kind of does the quote-unquote correct thing, right? Where you're supposed to, macro in a certain way, you do like smart reactions, blah blah blah. You don't rely too much on gimmicks. He's been trying to kind of switch in some of these gimmicky gambly builds and stuff like that in the Best of X series, which has netted mixed results, and sometimes is not exactly very inspiring because that's not the type of player he really is and the strength that he has. By the way, at any moment, whenever I'm talking, you can just, if you have like a question or just want me to clarify anything, just tell me.
Sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm probably just gonna keep talking for a while. So basically, he's in like a weird spot right now. He even said that he was for whatever reason he like can't focus lately for some reason. Like something is messing up with his brain a little bit. And he like that's why he wanted to take a break as well. Even after he lost in the last chance qualifiers, he didn't even bother trying to play on the NA qualifier because he wanted to take a break, and so he's trying to play less tournaments before Katowice compared to years past where he would basically just play whatever leading up to any tournament. He's someone that in general has found success after analyzing like his mental state, and so I'm imagining he's trying to take a similar approach this time, and given this different situation, so that seems to be what's happening to him. The main, so other than like the mixing up styles and just in general not really knowing what he's doing, the other big weakness that is like really common throughout basically any of his games, and what's common through a lot of his series in general, is his pretty big eagerness to just like push fights and looking for as much damage as possible. So I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen games of him and just in general where like he seems to get he wants to get like as much damage as possible with anything, essentially. Like any it's a weird, because like some people say that he like doesn't micro or that he doesn't have flashy micro, and then my brain is just like exploding because like he's literally like the one player that tries to get as much out of everything as possible besides like parting maybe, and it's like really weird to me. But he does this too much, I think. And I put in the notes here that I used to call this him having like this super killer instinct that was like so precise that it was like a hindrance in a way, because like he sees a fight that he like knows he could take and he could win if he plays it 100% perfectly, but if he plays it 99% perfectly, it just kind of falls flat on its face, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like that happens a lot. I should have loaded up this replay before I was talking. I forgot about this. Sorry. I actually had to find the replay. That's right. So I have this amazing example. This is literally the most perfect example of this I can even think of. It's like just thinking about this game makes me just like facepalm. It's like incredible. Like he just has this thing where he will get a great position. He'll be totally fine. He'll defend whatever is happening, get into a really good spot, and then he feels the need that he has to try and punish even more, because he thinks in his head like, yeah, I should be able to do this. This is fine, and then he just kind of throws it out the window. And this is a great example of that. So this game also though will be a good example of what his general PvT is right now, which is the first matchup we're going to talk about. And Twilight Capsule is his like bread and butter, basically. He's not really a Stargate player unless it's reactively, and I'll talk about that as well. But basically, Twilight openers are his very I'm going into a series wanting to open Twilight Council, basically. Doing that with fast third bases. So you go like Twilight Robo, get a couple of units, Stalker, Adept. Sometimes he goes 2 Adept. Sometimes he goes 2 Stalker. I don't really know exactly the reason sometimes. I think some of it's just preference, and some of it might just be like, trying to metagame in some scenarios or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically just, it's 3 units out of the gateway. You get second gateway after Twilight and Blink. You get the Robo. And then he goes for a 4-minute third. And then after that, he plays pretty reactively, which is honestly kind of cool. I think he plays this the best out of the top players. I would say maybe not Zest. Maybe Zest is a little bit, because like Zest is really YOLO in what he's doing, right? Like he kind of has an idea and then he just kind of sticks with it and just goes ham and wins somehow, even though he floats 1,000 minerals.
Yep.
The classic. So that's a little different. I feel like Trap tries to play like really the smartest way in this regard. I really like this build, especially because he goes for the fast sentry as well. The first warping unit he gets is a sentry, so then he can do a hallucination scout across the map. That's something that very little players do anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a really nice little alteration. That's good to do because it like 100% gets the confirmation of what the Terran is doing, whereas usually you're really just making a big assumptions, and it's pretty hard to lock down what exactly they're doing.
Yeah. Actually, pause here.
Yeah.
So I was talking to other people, of course, and the consensus is that the Terrans are now doing a lot of 3-Raxes and a lot of fake factory expands where they block the probe scout with the second supply depot. Do you think that this meta change on the Terran side will encourage more Protosses to do what Trap's doing here with the sentry?
That's what my brain tells me, and that's what I think. I mean, that's why Trap has started doing this for sure. Because like, yeah, it is very hard to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be. Is it really abusable? Because like, I mean, I'm doing every time I open Blink, I do this now on ladder as well, and it's like, it just feels good. The only thing is that it is like, very defensive, right? You're not, if you're going the sentry, you can't really make like 7 to 10 stalkers after that and then try to be really aggressive while expanding at the same time, like some sort of Blink Robo fast third builds can sometimes do. So that's the thing. It's a little less versatile in how exactly you can play, but it's more versatile in how you can defend, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I feel like as a style, I think it's good. I mean, whether or not more other players will do it, I mean, that's their preference, I guess. Yeah. So, I think it's good. I think it's a solid way to play it, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I've seen him do this like multiple times in multiple series. Sometimes he doesn't do it. Pro players switch this shit up all the time, like to keep it different all the time. So, but I've seen him do it multiple times. It's not like it's a one-off thing or anything. He actually got the 3-Rax confirmation with the Adept Scout before even the Hallucination Sentry, so that's kind of cool. He can just save it. Didn't even notice that the first time, honestly. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so his build that he's going for is like really reactive, like I was saying. So in the notes I mention it as well, where the things he can do are very different based off what he scouts with the hallucination. This time it was the Adept Scout that luckily got the info anyway, but like versus 3-Rax, if he ever opens this build, he actually always just goes for more Immortals and Sentries and a lot of Stalkers, which is kind of the opposite of what you'd think. Usually you think if they're going Robo and they see 3-Rax, then they go for like Fast Colossus or something. That's usually what it was like a while ago, but he actually does it a little differently, and it's actually pretty good because he can kind of just pin down the units, and then eventually once everything is together and he has like a couple Immortals, he's got Sentries for Force Field and stuff. Whatever this happens, it's actually really hard to even push into it, and then with Overcharge, even without Overcharge, I guess this is just a lot of Stalkers, and it's just Sentries, keeping Beyond from actually diving deep. You can actually pick this off pretty well, and he gets himself into a great spot where he's chasing down a 3-Rax bio player with basically only Gateway and Immortals and full 3-base economy on 65 probes, with the Terran lifting up their third command center. And so like this is a really good spot, right? It's great. It's wonderful. We're up 65 to 50 probes. We don't have a forge. That's the only bad thing about going for this reaction, is that the forge is late because you go for a lot of gateways with it instead. And you don't really have like a Robo Bay. You don't have a Twilight or a Templar Archives. You do have charge. So the other stuff is late. So because the forge is late, because the tech is late, he feels kind of pressured to actually do something a little bit more than just lifting up the third CC. But he kind of does that too much, and so then he takes what is he just like, just looking at this natural, it's like, why, what compels you to try and break into a bunker and 5 barracks 2 Widow Mines, a bunch of medevacs still, and just keep doing it. And he does it like multiple times. He comes back, and then he goes again. Realizes it's too much. He's like, oh shit, you're getting chased. Okay, well, I gotta keep trying to go. Okay. I mean, like, this is fine at this point, but like, the original attempt to bust is like, it just like, it's so unnecessary, I feel. When you could kind of do a similar-ish pin with just like a Warp Prism harass on the side, and then just posturing with maybe just the Blink Stalkers, and then you can just blink them away and stuff like that while you're waiting for Storm to finish back at home while going for a 4th base. Because, I mean, you can't really push across with a Warp Prism sitting in the back corner when you've been stuck on when you've been forced to be stuck back on 2 bases and whatnot. And then after suiciding so much and kind of taking a little bit longer to transition than he wanted to, getting caught a little bit out of position. I don't even think if he was in position this would have really mattered. It might have at least not ended right now, but it still, again, is not a situation he needs to be in. And he loses the game because of it. So, despite having a really good opener, knowing exactly what's happening, defends the 3-Rex and the follow-up 3-Rex push totally fine, pushes too hard, throws the game because he thinks he has a position where he could actually punish more, and then he doesn't actually punish it properly, and then he loses. This is like a thing that I've seen him do. I saw this exact interaction happen in another game as well. I just can't remember where it was. Whereas the exact same thing, defending a 3-Rex in the exact same way, the exact same build, pushed too hard into the net and died. Okay. It's like it's a pretty common thing. I think it's the biggest commonality of his losses that I notice, where it's him pushing when he really shouldn't, or just trying to get a little too much extra damage when he really should just say F it and just go home, kind of a thing. And I don't know exactly why he feels the need to do that. So yeah, that's that. Okay. So that's the general Blink opener stuff. I have a lot of other games where I can think of him going for that. It's just I can't find the exact replays. I wasn't sure exactly which ones they were, but you can do that build into a lot of different things. One of them was also versus Beyond on Blackburn. I just can't find the replay where Beyond was going for a fast tank marine push. Trap had done the exact same opener, and he had gone for those 2 immortals really fast out of the robo. After scouting that it was a fast tank push, and was easily able to destroy the push. It literally did like nothing, and then he just goes into Colossus and then double forge afterwards with full 3 base economy, and it was just like a total wash of a game. You can just skip the immortals entirely and just go into really fast Colossus. I don't see that often, but it's something that could happen. The more common one that he likes to do, which is skipping everything to rush into Storm to go against the Raven tank builds that have been so popular for the last year, or after Mind Drop openers. I remember he on his stream one time, like last month or whatever, he said he like defended a Mind Drop perfectly and it did like no damage, and he knew that it was a Raven follow-up, so he's like, okay, I can go rush into Storm directly after this because of that. So if he sees that he's defended the early aggression super well and then knows that it's like a tank Raven follow-up, then he just rushes right into Storm because it's super good against those. Like it just completely shuts any of those pushes down. Again, there's a replay that I remember versus Cure, and I just can't find it. I have too many freaking replays, but it was literally just him doing the fast Storm build, which is in this Maru game, which we can pop open, I guess, to just take a quick look, I guess, at it. I'm not going to look too much at it, but it is, what was I gonna say? It's the same exact build where you just rush really fast into Storm. You don't really get anything out of the robo besides the observers. Sometimes he squeezes out a War Prism, but usually not until later. And then you just get extra gateways, and then you have Storm done as a push would be happening, and you just kind of shit on it. Like the army size overall is really small, so it could look kind of deceiving, but in general, you just as a Terran, can't really push into it very easily. So those types of builds became really, really popular because I mean, I saw Trap do it first. Zest also was doing it pretty early, but this is the earliest example I remember seeing, I think. He might have done it a little bit earlier in another one before this, because I remember Artosis, like I linked to the part where Artosis is like, oh, he's going for a really fast storm. This is like, you don't see this often anymore, something like that. And I was like, I think I remember thinking like, Artie, if you actually watched StarCraft 2, you would have realized that Trap did this like a week ago or something like that. I can't remember if that was actually this or not, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember him saying that too and being like, well, it's been done. It's been done for a bit now.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But yeah, so this is the game that I think was pretty early of him doing this, and it was very strong style that he keeps doing even until now. It's not a tank Raven push, it's just a defensive follow-up, so Trap kind of just was able to do whatever he wanted, and you just kind of washed through Morrow. We don't even have to look through it, honestly, because there's not really much to say or look at, except if we want to look at him storm an SCV line and killed 30 probes or 30 SCVs all at once. But you can, I guess, take a look at that if you want another later. But it's a good example of just the build I'm talking about and how early he was doing it to show. Because I couldn't find the other replay that I wanted. So anyway. That's kind of his PvT bread and butter, the reactive blink build. He does like doing that, and then of course he'll switch it up a little bit and how he wants to do it. Sometimes he will bring out the 4-gate blink. Sometimes he will do the 4-gate blink with a third base, like a fast third base. There's like one of those types of versions of the 4-gate blink nowadays. He did that versus Bunny, I think, in that one series where he just washed him by going like 4-gate blink every game when Bunny was going 3cc every game. So he kind of mixes that in a little bit. The other thing is the Stargate stuff, of course. So for Trap, Stargate is either a reaction or it's him doing a proxy oracle to kind of throw in every now and then. The proxy oracle thing, he basically would always do that for a while, at least once a series. He would throw in a proxy oracle and it would show pretty good success. He would get pretty good SCV damage because his Oracle micro is great. And even if he didn't get amazing damage with it, at least forced a response out of Terran, and then he would go into either multiple Oracles or he would even make multiple Phoenix off of the proxied Stargate and go like charge Archon Phoenix with the proxied Stargate still. And the game versus Clem, the series versus Clem is a pretty good example of this whole thing that I'm talking about right now, where the Proxy Oracle game did very well, and then the responses with Stargate did not go that well. So he basically will try to go Phoenix after Stargate if he sees if he gets eBay blocked, or if it's one of the like proxy to factor or proxy 1-Rax Reaper with a factory at home type build. At least up until whenever he just, he's wasn't really playing in tournaments much anymore. This could have literally changed within the last 2 weeks or something if he felt like he wanted to. But basically every single time he saw that, he would always go Stargate in Phoenix. To the point where Clem in this series in DreamHack Winter was kind of mind gaming him a little bit by going for really fast stim bio follow-ups even after the fact, to abuse the fact that Trap basically always would go Stargate Phoenix. And let me see if I can find, do I have this game? Where is this game? Did I reply or download this game? Oh, this is all TSL. Crap. No, I didn't do this game. Wait, no, I do have this game. Where is it? I recorded it. Oh, it's in. No, it's not. Oh, it's in the other folder. Jesus. I hate this replay thing, man. It's so annoying. Do you remember the game where like on Curious Minds where Trap got the nutty ass like triple or like quadruple mind drag with the Phoenix over the bio? Do you remember that game?
Kind of.
That's the game I'm talking about.
Okay.
Where that was like his last resort move that he had to make to actually just like survive at all.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was a cool move, and it did, you know, keep him let him survive for a little bit. But then it didn't matter anyway because he was so far behind from the initial interactions of going Stargate versus a fast bio follow up. So that's like the perfect example of what I'm kind of talking about there. And I'm kind of surprised it took until Clem to even to get, you know, someone to mind game it that hard, because he literally does it every time. Every single time I would see it, it would just be a Stargate Phoenix follow up, and I'm just like sitting here wondering how Terrans are still losing to it when it's literally the most predictable thing ever. It's insane. But yeah, I don't know. But that's a really good example. I just can't find the replay because these folders are so dumb. But I'll find all the replays and put them all together in a thing to send you afterwards, so you can look at all of them.
Thank you.
More specifically. Okay. So sometimes he will just go Stargate Phoenix in base, even without a proxy or without a eBay block. It's honestly mostly versus Cure, actually. First, it's like almost always versus Cure. He just loves going Stargate versus Cure because Cure is always going to be doing like some fast Hellion drop or like a bunch of Widowmine drops, stuff like that. Like the Cloak Widowmine drop as well. So he is really fond of going for Phoenix versus Cure, and it'll completely smash him quite a lot. Recently, not as much because Cure has just been doing much better in general in this matchup, I think, and Trap has in general not been. And I think Cure has kind of figured out, and just Terrans in general have figured out the ways to kind of play around the Stargate openers when they're playing a best of X. There's not as many Hellion drops lately, I feel. Do you feel the same thing? I don't feel like I've been seeing any Hellion drops almost ever in the last like month or two.
Yeah, I would say the last month I haven't seen too many. It's been way more of the 3 racks and the fake stuff. And but on the same note, I feel like I've been watching more and more Protoss go almost purely Stargate, like Showtime, and definitely just go Stargate every single time. Zest had
that is what I'm curious about.
Yeah, Zest had a tournament where he went Stargate every single time, and I wondered if he was gonna keep with that, but then he didn't in GSL Super Tournament, so I'm not sure where he's at. But
Zest just is whatever Zest wants, honestly, I think.
yeah, probably.
He's just like takes a dart, just like throws it at the dart board. What build am I gonna do only this entire tournament this time? Boop. Oh, okay, I'm just doing glaives every time this tournament. Great. All right, first place.
Exactly.
Stargate this time. Alrighty. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think people have been going for those types of openers versus Trap as much lately because his defense versus that stuff when he goes Stargate is kind of nuts. So I'm guessing that's probably part of it. But if he is playing versus someone that he thinks will be doing that, he will likely be going Stargate a lot. And Cure is one of those people that I've seen consistently. He opens Stargates. He opens Stargate against because Cure usually likes to do that type of stuff versus him. And again, that's more again kind of in the middle-ish of last year, and then kind of falling off a little bit towards coming into now. So anytime he does open that, he will pretty much always go Phoenix Charge and then Phoenix Charge Archon. Every now and then he'll do Phoenix Colossus, but he very much prefers Chargelet Phoenix Archon as a follow-up to that. He's a tempo player. That's something that I think people don't notice or don't really point out too much. I think that I'm also now just realizing is that Trap really does like tempo, in that if a build gives him an opportunity, he likes to snowball it. He will play a style that allows him to capitalize on things that he's done before. And so that's why I think he's so fond of going Chargelet Phoenix, even when it wasn't really that popular for a while. Sometime like a little bit during last year, and maybe even I think even into 2020, I feel like he also would still bring it out pretty regularly. My memory's stretching there. But even when most people weren't doing this style anymore, because it's super tempo based, and also because he's really good at mind drags, he's like literally the best mind dragger I think of any Protoss. But he's very tempo based. He loves to just kind of put it, if he has the momentum in his favor, he will push that, and that style, that follow-up allows him to do that. Phoenix Colossus does not as much. So every now and then he'll bring that out, but he really does prefer going Phoenix Charge Archon anytime he opens Phoenix. Okay, cool. That is kind of the PVT.
All right.
That's mostly it. I tried to keep it kind of short, and then I realized that even the short stuff, I have so much to talk about. And then I started writing stuff about PVP and PVZ. I was like, oh crap, I'm writing so much about this. I was like, how am I going to talk about all this crap in an hour? Like, Jesus Christ. Okay. Any other PVT question?
No, I got a good image.
Okay. All right. Hold up, I need water.
Okay.
Okay. All right, PvP. This is the okay. So to start off, I think PvP. I put the recent form percentages of each matchup just to give an idea of where he's been at the last. I think it's like 2 months is what the recent form is on Eliculak. That could be totally wrong, but I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's like 3 months, 4 months, something like that.
I never thought about it.
I don't really remember how long it is, but it's, you know, more relevant than the overall win rates. So I put those. PvP is put at 54%. I think that is a massive mistake. I mean, not mistake, but like misrepresentation. Because right now, I think Trap's PvP is really bad. It's like really bad. He really feels, I mean, it looks like he feels lost, like so lost. There's a point in time as well. When was this? I think this was like, I think early-ish 2020, where this was a kind of a similarity where Trap was like super lost in PvP, and then, you know, nothing would go his way. He didn't seem to understand anything. He would always be on the odd one out in terms of build orders and stuff like that. But then out of nowhere, towards like the middle of 2020 and then going into 2021, when he started having his God runs where he just figured out PvP. My timeline might be off here somewhere, but like I remember there was that point in time where everyone thought that Zest was the best PvP peer in the world. Do you remember this? Like everyone was like, yeah, Zest PvP is unbeatable right now, and like you can't beat Zest PvP. I think this was at the end of 2019 going into 2020. I'm pretty sure about that. And then after that period, Trap just started beating Zest every time they played, and he was like, he had it locked. Like his PvP was nuts. Now it's going back to that time where he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he's like trying everything. And the last PvP versus Hero in the Super Tourney, and then also all of his PvP qualifying matches in the Super Tourney qualifiers are like the greatest example of Trap being both the unluckiest player and not knowing what the fuck he wants to do, because he really looks like he's throwing darts at a dartboard. Did you see the Hero series of him versus Hero?
No, I don't think I did. Well, actually, I think I listened to it kind of casually in the background.
It was
not good.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have not been like overly disappointed in watching him play a series as much as that series. Honestly, ever since Katowice, the last Katowice, it was the last time I felt this like, what are you doing? When he did the same double Stargate opener versus Queen Walks like 4 games in a row and versus 2 players and lost every time.
Yeah.
Like he did a 1 base, where is it? It says it right here. 1 base blink all in versus a Stargate build, and he had a battery in his main, but he still just lost all of his probes to 1 Oracle because he didn't leave a stalker or anything, or didn't warp in anything at home, and then he just died. He did on Pride of Alteris, which is a 1-gate expand map, he did a Nexus before Cyber, which is not common. and he tried to do like the parting thing that happened to him way back. Remember when parting like proxied a pylon in his main base or whatever, and then like spammed adepts in his main base after going Nexus first? Do you remember this? He tried to do basically that, but it got scouted immediately, and it just didn't do anything. And then he got memed on a 1-gate versus 1-gate map, and he just played it really bad and lost to a fast cold base. And it was just like and then he was getting like all in, and he knew it, but he just for some reason positioned all of his army to the left on Blackburn and like the natural, like completely away from his battery, and so the Immortal just got like one-shotted. And I'm literally just like face palming right now just thinking about this. Like it was the worst series I think I've seen of him ever in a long time. It was really bad. And like that is a great example of what his PvP is right now. It really feels like he's grasping for straws, because the whole qualifier up into this, I don't know how much you looked at them, but he literally only played PvP basically the entire qualifier. Getting into Super Tournament, he lost every single one except for the last series versus Nightmare, which was a 1-2. And even that 2-1 was like really close. So something is totally fucked up with his PvP. The games that he was playing, I mean, I have all, I mean, is there any that I can think I can, let's see, let me find the, it should be, where is this? Basically, he was getting really unlucky in a lot of these games where like they were the weirdest games ever, where he would get decent advantages and then just like die anyway. And that's like the greatest explanation of his PvP, because he will just get into a totally fine spot and then he will just die based off of like the tiniest little unfortunality. It's like really weird. I'm trying to find these replays. Hold up. Soundtrap 2K. Is this the one? Yes. Okay. Okay. Can you go in and accept replay?
Yep.
Boom, boom. Cool. Okay. Ba-da-da-da. I'll talk about the 1-gate expand inconsistencies after I talk about this, because this is like the normal games compared to the 1-gate expand ones. Actually, does he go 1-gate expand this game? I think he does. Okay, so this is this is continuing with that little extra thing that I was talking about, where he seems to be grasping for straws. This was the first game I'd ever seen Trap go for a 1-gate expand on a non-1-gate expand map. This is the qualifying match for GSL Super Tournament on the upper bracket side. So he loses this and then goes down to then play more and then barely get in on the last possible chance. So this is the first time I ever saw him do this. Pretty much any time that he would do a 1-gate, be on a non-1-gate expand map, he would be playing versus players that do 1-gate expand on it, and he always tries to break it instead of expanding. So he'll always all in versus it. Specifically, if you remember the Max Pack series from TSL 8, where on this map, where he got the lucky force field trapping the Immortal, which then allowed him to continue and win with his proxied 3-gate thing, which was good on him, but also a little sloppy on Max Packs. But you know, we take those. So yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen him do this, which again confirms the fact that he is kind of just trying anything right now to kind of get ahead in this matchup. So he opens up with a good opener. He gets a pretty decent probe lead, enough to even it, or to keep it even. I think he kills even more as well on the exit at some point. I'm pretty sure he gets like an actual probe lead. How many did he kill? 4. Still decent. Anyways. What's he see? He sees the 1 extra gateway. He doesn't see the robo. He barely didn't go in far enough. So he doesn't quite know that it's an aggressive follow-up. He also doesn't know there's DTs. He also went DTs, but he never actually uses them. which is another nice meme. He just like kind of made a DT shrine but never did anything with it. And then he knows that he's going to get attacked, so he's putting stasis swords everywhere, but it's like he's still probing. He's on 48 probes with 3 more in production. He's not made a robo. Again, he made the Dark Shrine, never used it. And he's just dead because he didn't make any units, because he did everything else. So like games like this are a lot of what his PvP losses are right now, where it's just a really slight misread and then just getting snowballed on really badly because of some sort of small misread or like some unlucky interaction that happens in terms of like a scouting error, or the way a certain build order works out in terms of like, you know, when a third base comes down, he just barely doesn't scout it, or like he thinks that a certain thing is showing aggression when really it's not, and then he over defends and then he just ends up behind anyway. That is like a lot of what his normal PvPs look like when he's losing. I mean, he wins obviously as well. It's like it's not like he's doesn't win, so like he'll still obviously make correct reads and stuff like that, but anytime he's losing, this is what it kind of feels like, where it's just this really small little misalignment or just misjudgment, and then it snowballs in on him really hard. This is the same series. The next game, which is just another prime example of just, again, like it's like a pretty normal game, and then just suddenly he's dead with not really much besides just a mispositioning. While this game is loading, also in this whole day of Super Tournament qualifier travesties, there was a game on the same map versus Zest where it was just normal Blink versus Blink. He went for a fast DT on 2 bases, similar to what Zaun was doing that last game. But the fun fact was that Zest was actually doing the exact same thing, but just only slightly faster. And so Zest's DTs got in first, and so Trap lost instead. Yeah. So it's like, that's another great example of just, wow, okay, I guess I lose now because we chose slightly similar builds, but it was just ever so slightly not in my favor. So we've got that game, we got the Zaun game we just saw, and now we are at this game where he's doing some pretty nice little double stalker pressure, kills 2 stalkers for 1, and he also got a probe, so that's a decent trade. He is going to be up in probes, I think he gets up like a probe and a half or 2 from this as well, and just gets into a generally even situation. This is totally fine. We even got the +1 versus the no +1 of the opponent. So overall, we're doing good. And they're both doing, again, the exact same thing. It's just that Zaun is doing it slightly faster. And Trap now is sitting here thinking that he's like, oh yeah, I'm denying the scouts. Look at me, I'm gonna do a proxy gateway attack. Oh, I'm so smart. And then Zaun's like, oh, just kidding, I'm doing the same thing, and now I'm behind you, and you're mispositioned, and now you just lose because of that. And it's like, oh, wait, what? Like, this is Trap's PvP. It's just the most random little tiny things that it's just like, oh, the builds were misaligned, not in my favor. Oh, I was outpositioned trying to just do this cute little move, and oh, it's now backfiring completely. Oh, I'm going DTs, but you're going them slightly faster. Like, this is what his PvP losses look like right now, honestly, in pretty much every scenario, I feel. Okay. So, yeah. The game just continues, and eventually he dies. There's not much else to say there. Okay. So what's that? The other thing is that his 1K expand map meta is way off. He can get mind gamed just out the wazoo. Like, he really feels like he doesn't quite get it. He doesn't like 1K expand maps. I know there was a certain point in time last year where he was vetoing the 1K expand maps as much as he could in tournaments. And and so he doesn't like them. Nowadays there are more of them. The new map pool has more 1-gate expand maps, so you kind of have to be able to be good at the mind games with them, but he's not good at the mind games with them. The hero game from Super Tournament is a great example because it's basically just the 1-gate expand versus 1-gate expand. They both wall off. You have to do like the full wall on Blackburn to not allow units getting in and out. You both go Stargate, and then you kind of end up in like either a Phoenix versus Phoenix or like a Phoenix versus Oracle war kind of a thing. That's kind of how it works out. But you also both make a Zealot if the other player is putting the pylon down to block, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trap did the thing where you keep the Zealot in the base so that way you can kill the pylon so you can expand. That makes sense. Hero did the thing where it's actually just big brain where you send the Zealot across, you don't care about the pylon, and you use your scouting probe to come back to make a gold base. And Trap just, didn't even consider this would be a possibility. And then he's losing because now he has nothing that could actually get on the map because there's also a Zealot attacking his wall. And so he can't even use his Phoenix to do anything across the map or scout because he's actually trying to kill a Phoenix or kill a Zealot and a Stalker with Phoenix, while also trying to prepare for the fact that there might be an Oracle coming. Meanwhile, there's a gold base going down. And then he just loses because of that. So he just gets mind gamed in a really dumb way, loses, boom. Versus MaxPax, the crazy game on Blackburn where it was like the mass, ground army versus like the Void Ray Disruptor carrier memes, which is like a totally crazy game, and it was like actually really good. Yeah. But, like the mind games in this early game, this might even be like my favorite game of the year, even though Trap loses, because this game was so insane. The amount of like mind games happening in the early game, and then just the constant attacking throughout the rest of the game. So I listed the whole interaction here, but like, so they both see. Oops, I just hit my microphone. They both see the Phoenixes being made in the walls, and it's like, okay, cool. Trap sees that, gets his probe dies eventually. MaxPax switched into Oracle instead, or sorry, no. I'm mixing it up. He saw Oracle being made. Wait, what? Wait a minute. He saw Phoenix Special Probe cancels Oracle? Wait, no, that's not what I mean. He makes an Oracle. MaxPax makes an Oracle. Why do I write cancels? Okay, sorry. Okay, so he sees Phoenix. MaxPax cancels, makes an Oracle. Trap is forced to make Phoenix back at home. Trap can't risk actually getting any confirmation scout because he's going blind Phoenix, and you can't just walk into a Phoenix versus Phoenix war with only 1 or 2 Phoenix. That's just asking to die. So he can't actually know what's happening. So he has to assume it's a second Stargate Phoenix war. So he puts that down in preparation. Trap, being the god that he is, somehow still sniffs out the fact that it's an Oracle anyway. I have no idea how he was able to figure this out, but he did. And he actually defends the Oracle pretty much fine. He lost like a probe, maybe 2. That's not really that big of a deal. But the important thing here is that Trap saw the Oracle, and using your big old Korean 7K MMR logical brain, you're like, oh, he made an Oracle, not a Phoenix. That means he's not making more Phoenix. I don't need to go second Stargate. I cancel it, and I know that it's not a Phoenix war. But Trap forgot to account for the fact that MaxPax is not a Korean 7K MMR player and is in Monkey, so he just went for Phoenix afterwards anyway, and went second Stargate anyway. So now Trap is completely behind in the air battle because now he's canceled his second Stargate and is going into ground when MaxPax is going into full air, and then he totally loses loses the air interaction and is forced to play ground versus air in an awkward position. So that interaction of things in this game was actually like some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. Like that was the level of mind games. Like the different layers, the fact that there were that many different layers. I've never seen that many layers of mind games in an early game interaction like that. Like that game was actually so cool. It was, not great that he lost, but it was a very good game. So that also kind of shows you the general issue with Trap's early game PvP and 1-gate expand maps where he just kind of falls flat on his face sometimes.
Yep.
Because of the weird stuff like that. Cool. Okay. That's basically the PvP. There's plenty other examples, but I don't need to talk about all of them, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. questions before PVZ?
No, let's get into PVZ.
Wonderful. More water. Hold up. Okay. I was actually surprised on Illegalax saying that this is his worst recently at 45%. I feel like that's just because his last chance qualifier was kind of rough, going 0-5 versus Zerg, and then his 1-7 versus Serral in TSL 8, even though he also did really well versus everyone that wasn't Serral in TSL 8. Because there's not really much else besides those two tournaments in Illegalac recently. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is a little deceiving, that 45%. Because I think his PVZ is actually still quite good. Unless he's playing Serral. Or unless he's having a bad day. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a little misleading. But the TSL 8 games are the greatest example, I think, of what his PVZ is capable of right now. Ragnarok being the example of how he will gladly go Adepts still if he feels like he can get value from it. Ragnarok is someone who he's beaten in the past many times with glaives, and he's someone who he views as someone that is weak at defending them, and so he will do that 4 games in a row in 2 different series of going 6 gate, which was bonkers. I was actually it was literally the gif, like, he can't keep getting away with it, like he literally did. I've never in my life seen him go. He did 6 gate glaive. Was it 3 times? I think it was 3 times in a row. The first time was just a normal 4-gate glaive, and then I think the next 3 were 6-gate. Never in my life have I seen him do that. It was insane. The balls on this kid to go 6-gate glaives and win 2 out of the 3 times. It was like, holy crap. He just dumpstered him. So he's fully capable of still bringing that stuff out if he feels like it's very good. He also does it specifically on maps with shorter rush distances, so that way he can prevent queen walks, because, as we'll note a little bit later, his queen walk defense is less than mediocre. So he likes to prevent that as much as possible. So maps like Curious Minds, maps like Berlingrad, he will like to do that. Another thing that I actually didn't remember to put in there is that he also will mix in those fast robo openers on those maps as well. So to mix it up from the glaive builds, he'll also do like the robo into disruptor drop into the 2 base Colossus all in, or the fake all in into 3rd base types of stuff. So he'll bring that stuff out too. Forgot to mention that. The Ragnarok series in Super Tournament is an example of that one. Okay, so that's the ground stuff. Otherwise, of course, then we have the Stargate, 2 Stargate Void Ray, as per usual, like the thing that is killing the entire game right now. Haha. So the way that Trap likes to do it is that he doesn't do the full-on late game meme, where he will just kind of sit back and defend the whole time until eventually it ends, purposely making it go into the 40-minute games kind of thing. We know there's the 4-hour Trap versus Serral thing, and that's its own thing entirely. But a lot of those games were him still trying to do what I'm going to talk about right now, which is him trying to do the pre-late game max out death push, where he does this fast Void Ray, the 2 Stargate Void Ray, 3rd base. He goes fast 3 Stargate for carrier, then into a 4th base, while then going into 2 disruptors, a prism. And while the disruptors and prism is coming out, he's transitioning into a full 10-gate ground switch to then just do a massive 9 to 10 minute 9-10 Void Ray, 3 carrier, 2 disruptor, everything else ground attack to try and basically like cut off it's like you just sweep the legs out under from the Zerg, whatever that's trying to go into the mega late game defensive setup. You just sweep their legs out, and then you're just totally just killing them, because they're getting a bunch of queens, they're getting infestors, they're getting vipers and corruptors, and they're trying to get all that cool stuff, and then you just like, just kidding, and you just kill them. The Raynor game on Hardwire is the perfect example of this. It was just literally perfect. It went exactly as he wanted to. Raynor had no idea what was happening. You just punched him right out of the game. That's the perfect example. Nowadays, he's been doing it with Charge Archon as the follow-up on ground. Whereas before, I note down here where I said like sometimes it doesn't work even if he's allowed to go for the push. This was in the Serral series. So that Serral series, while it looked like it was just Trap being like, yeah, let's go to late game, woohoo, and we're gonna play these super long games. There were a couple games in here where he was trying to do this. The 2K game is the one that I remember most vividly because it's exactly the same type of push he was trying for even now, where he did the exact same push, but it didn't work because it was an older version that he was going for mostly just stalkers as a reinforcement instead of the Charge Archon, which I think complements it way better and is just in general a better thing to flood with afterwards. And that's why he's been having so much better success with it now than he was back then. Also, there was just bad disruptor micro in that exact fight, which is why it went so badly in the Serral game. So then it just kind of got forced to be a super long late game. But Trap is almost always trying to kill the Zerg before it gets super late. Pretty much any scenario, any game where he is letting it purposely get as late as possible, he always looks uncomfortable, I think. There's like that one solar game on Romanticide from GSL that I can remember that he just like barely won after the most insane type of, insane late game fight. There's the multiple Serral games in this series. There was one on Glittering Ashes that was pretty good. I think that the Glittering Ashes game versus Serral in that huge series was the greatest example of him actually doing quite well in the let's just do late game style, like doing lots of cool counter harass with like blink DTs, like jumping into snipe spores, using Archon Stalker to defend the Ultra Ling Bane counterattacks and then counterattack himself to then kill hatcheries quicker, stuff like that. Well, then just roaming with Void Rays around the sides and doing recalls and stuff like that. So like that's what he'll be trying to do if he is doing that style, but he doesn't prefer it. He would much rather just kill them because that's more fun, I guess. And also because it's less nauseating. So yeah, that's what he prefers to do. And that Raynor game is just it's a perfect example. It's like absolutely amazing. Serral figured out the counter to this though, going for that huge Corruptor Queen Ravager Ling swell. Just walk it all across the map. It hits right before the max gateway swell comes in, so it just like only a couple air units with batteries and stuff like that, and that totally killed Trap in the Serral rematch. And then Rogue did it to him as well in the last chance qualifiers. He also lost to that. It was slightly closer by 1%, but it was it was still basically just dead on impact. Recently though, after I was watching his stream after last chance a little bit, he still is bringing the build out, but he alters it now slightly to where he's getting a few of the gates earlier, and it allows him to get a overall better army to defend that exact attack with other preparations of like faster batteries and cannons and stuff like that, a better position set up, so that way he actually can defend it. And his whole game plan with it is that he basically sacks the air. He just lets it stay alive for as long as possible, like micros it around and stuff like that, but he doesn't continue making air, and instead he switches fully into Blink Disruptor on the ground, because the Zerg is just full on into Corruptor Queen Roach Ravager. So if you just kill off the queens with the first couple of disruptors, let the corruptors kind of just do whatever they want versus the air, but slowly die anyway, you're just left with a bunch of Roach Ravager, and the Zerg can't really actually transition out of that quickly. And then if you're just going Blink Disruptor under that, you're just going to smack it eventually after kind of, going back and forth and whatnot. So like I saw him do this versus Armani on his stream. He did it versus Solar as well, and I got the replay from him for that I'll give you too, so you can look at it if you want to. It's just like, yeah, it's the same exact build. It's just he's altered it now so that way he can actually defend against that thing that Serral and Rogue were doing. So that's a little hopeful for that at least. So that's good to see. That's why I also still think his PvZ is better than PvP, especially. I feel like he at least knows what's going on in this matchup, as opposed to PvP, where he really just looks like he doesn't know what the fuck he wants to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so like I said before, same with the PvP. He's also still kind of bringing in a couple of other builds as well to mix it up. He's doing Hero. He seems to be getting some inspiration from Hero. I think he kind of. I think he likes. I mean, I haven't asked him personally, but I feel like he likes the way that Hero's kind of shaking some stuff up with his different builds. Because I also forgot to mention that fast gold thing that he did versus Trap in the series that he lost to. Trap also then just tried that exact thing in another series afterwards, but he just died. Okay. He just got completely smacked with it. So he's like trying the stuff that Hero's doing a decent amount, I think. But again, it doesn't suit him very well, so he's not doing it to the best of its potential, and he's just kind of dying with it. He also tried to do that the weird hero PvZ build of going fast prism with adepts to make it look like you're doing a glaive build, but you're actually going 2 Stargate Phoenix behind it. I don't know if you've seen Hero do this at all, but he's been doing it in like every one of his series in like all the ESL Korea Opens and stuff like that lately.
Okay.
He kind of switched out of it a little bit, Hero did, but he for a good like month or two, like 2 months ago to like last month, Hero was doing these weird double Stargate Phoenix builds off of like anything, any opener. It was like glaives, and then it was glaives, it was Robo, and then it was like other stuff. He was just always going 2 Stargate Phoenix afterwards. Every game was so weird. But yeah, Trap's been trying to do stuff like that. He also did like the thing where you go Void Oracle and then you go into like that 4 or 5 gate glaive push, which you've probably seen at least once before. That was pretty standard for a while at the kind of middle-ish of last year. But then there was this variation that came out where you go Void Ray plus +1 second Stargate Void Ray afterwards, which I think is a terrible build, by the way. Have you seen this build?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they do the glaive thing, which is like a good build. I like that build. But like Zerg's kind of figured it out a little bit. So then Protoss were like, you know what? We're just gonna they make roaches after this, so we're gonna get the second Stargate and go Void Rays again anyway. And give up all tempo that we have. I hate this build because it goes exactly against what I was talking about before, where like tempo builds are really good, right? Where you get some more momentum and then you follow it up with something that could actually capitalize on that momentum. And that's what I think Trap is really good at. And then I saw Trap do this versus Serral on Berlingrad, and he gets nuts damage with the glaives. He kills Serral with the glaives, but he does the 2 Stargate Void Ray follow-up, and he loses all momentum, everything. He's forced to then play a 40-minute macro game because the build doesn't actually allow you to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just I don't want to die to the counterattack follow-up build. Like, that's what it is. But if he had just gone ground like he usually does anytime he plays that build and just goes into Blink Disruptor or something, he would have just completely rolled over Serral and won the series 3-1. I think that's what it was at that point. He would have won 3-1, I think. So yeah, I think that build is terrible. I hate that build so much. I'm glad I almost never see that come out. So yeah, he does try to mix that stuff in. And then there's the last thing, which is the Queen Walks. Have you seen any of his like Lambo series or like the Scarlet series and stuff like that?
No.
Okay. It's basically he goes Stargate and then the other player Queen Walks him and he dies.
Okay.
It's like he's just really bad at going for the Stargate defense versus Queen Walks. That's why he's so willing, and so he wants to go ground on the small Queen Walk maps because he has terrible history with dealing with Queen Walks, and it's actually specifically against foreigners. I can't remember the last time I saw a Korean Queen Walk him. I don't think Koreans usually Queen Walk him. So that's why I feel like the part of the reason of why he's so bad at it is because of ping. Like, you know, everyone likes to meme that, you know, it's not the ping. They both have the same ping. I think ping affects trap more than others, personally. At least in this specific scenario. Because, like I said, I almost never see him get queen walked in regular ping. It's always foreigners queen walking him, and whenever he does do it, we're gonna look at this game, because it's such a I lost the time. It's such a good example. I can just Discord stream it actually, so that way we don't have to sync it up. That would probably make it easier. Okay. All right. So it's on normal. Okay. So the thing that goes on with trap. So first, the other thing, other than the ping thing, the reason why I think he's so bad at dealing with queen walks is because he's kind of afraid to YOLO it. Where players like Zest I think is the best Stargate queen walk defender, because he is not afraid to just be balls out Protoss. Like, he will just make only Void Rays the whole game, go like fast flux veins, just make a bajillion fucking cannons and batteries, and just be like, yep, I'm just making Void Rays this game and nothing else. Like, there's he was the first one that was really trying to experiment a lot with the Void Ray stuff, and going for like even Void Ray Phoenix as like a composition and stuff like that. I remember seeing him do that in some ESL cups and stuff like that. It was like really weird. So like Zest is like really balls to the wall. Trap really doesn't want to do that. He wants to be like the safe, reactive, like correct gamer. You know what I mean? That's the vibe that we give him. So he's kind of afraid to go ham sometimes. And so that kind of, I feel like to defend the queen walks with Stargate, you kind of have to just be a Protoss and, you know, be the player that everyone hates, and actually just, you know, Protoss the fuck out of them. And he doesn't like doing that. The other thing though is the micro. So like the ping, I think, is actually very influential, because Trap's other Stargate micro is great. His Void Ray micro versus Biles and Queens is terrible. So many of these interactions, you're gonna see the way that. Can you see my mouse cursor or no?
I can see it, yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So basically, what you're supposed to do when you're going versus these queen walks, right, is you have to keep all the Void Rays together, clumped up, so that they're all moving together, right? You don't want them to ever get split up, because then it's impossible to micro each individual set of Void Rays as one thing. It becomes really, really hard, and that's like immediately when stuff will start to fall apart. So basically, you just like keep them all together, and you're just like stutter stepping around the whole map, just constantly picking off Ravagers and Queens wherever you can, and dodging around with the Biles. The problem with ping is that when you let the Void Rays decelerate, they take so long. This is a huge Bile hit right here. It's gonna get another one very soon as well. He gets the deceleration of the Void Rays makes it so hard to then come back and whip around. It runs into another one here. And so it becomes really hard to react to that when you have ping. And I think it affects Trap a little bit more than other players, because he does this so often. This is only one example, but all the other examples of the Lambo series, from the other World Team League series as well, where it was like during the playoffs during season 1, and Lambo and Trap played like 4 games in a row or whatever. All the Queen Walk games were him just like losing Void Rays to Biles and shit like that. The Scarlet series in World Team League was also the same. The Scarlet series from IAM Katowice was also the same.
Okay.
It's always that. And the other thing that he always tries to do, he doesn't commit to keeping them all as that ball. A lot of times you'll see him do this cute thing where he's like, yeah, I'm going to micro the individual Void Rays back, because that's what you're supposed to do with other units and stuff. But it doesn't actually work great with Void Rays defending in this. It really is best when you're just keeping them all together and bunching them together and just stutter stepping all over the place. Anytime you see Zest defend these Queen Walks, it's always that. He's just stutter stepping all over the place. They can never actually land Biles. The Queens can't ever focus the correct Void Rays that are on low health. And he defends them pretty pretty simply, to be honest. Loses a void right here to Queens because, again, he's too busy trying to micro individual ones back instead of just keeping them all together. This one is now getting stuck down here because he's not putting them all together, and so he's having to micro this one back. Now, again, they're in two separate areas. This one dies because they're not all together. He eventually will lose, I think, to another bile as well. Now he's getting them all together. What happens next? I forget. I think this one just dies. Again, he's microing individual ones back, He can't actually keep them all together. Yeah. Does he walk into a bile? I think he gets mega tilted at one point. This is it. Yeah, he loses. Yeah. He again, ping makes it so he can't actually react to it, and then he gets so fucking tilted, just screams she-ball in his room. It's very funny. And then yeah, he's dead now. Yeah. So this is his problem with Queen Walk defenses. So yeah. I'm actually very curious if Katowice is going to be all offline. Mm-hmm. What happens with Queen Walk defenses, and because fun facts. I don't know if you noticed, but Lambo is in his group. They just released the groups an hour ago.
Yep.
And Lambo is in his group. I really can't wait to see what happens there. And if Lambo Queen walks him and then Trap just dumps on it, I will feel so vindicated in my hypotheses. And it will be hopefully wonderful. Or it's just going to be a complete repeat of what happens every other time, and it's going to be very sad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That is the Queen Walk stuff. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, so, yep.
In just a little over an hour. Sorry. I couldn't quite get it all in 1 hour.
No worries. Yeah, so my last question, because we are a little over, is I just want to get your thoughts on his group since we have them. What are his chances of getting out? Who's he going to beat?
So I responded to I replied to the ESL Twitter with the funny meme of because I mean... I made before this came out. I joked that I bet he's gonna get Cyril in his group again, because it feels like he keeps getting Cyril in a bunch of these groups and stuff like that. And then I look at what he did get, and I was like, this is worse.
Oh yeah.
It's he got Hero Marine, who he always underestimates and plays stupid versus. He gets Lambo, who is just his absolute kryptonite. He gets Zest. He gets on-form Zest in PvP. And he gets Bunny, who also is, in general, better than he was, I think, most of last year. I think definitely better than he was in summer when Trap bopped him. I think Bunny is definitely better than he was back then. Bunny is probably I say the easiest. Bunny is the least of my worries. I'll say that.
Okay.
But... I mean, that GIF is very indicative of my feelings the moment I looked at that group. I'm just thinking of last year, man. He was coming in as possibly the favorite of the whole thing last year, and that happened. And now he's coming in with this slump. That's crazy. I don't know. This is a hard group. This is a weird group.
Okay.
This is a very weird group. I think because the thing I was talking about where he pushes advantages too hard versus players that he thinks he needs, when he has a situation he thinks he can. He especially does that versus players he thinks he's better than. Hero Marine is that player. Every time that he loses a Hero Marine, he's either disrespecting build choices, or he's disrespecting his game state and thinking he has a situation where he can just kill him when he can't, and then he's overstepping when he doesn't need to, and he just dies. That was exactly what happened last time. Okay. So Hero Marine, he needs to not do that versus Hero Marine. He needs to hope that Zest is just going to lose his form immediately, like he seems to have been doing the last 3 months, where Zest just becomes good and then terrible every other week. So he has to hope this is the downturn of Zest. He's got to hope that he's figured out his Lambo problem, and then Bunny is Bunny. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually a big fan of that group.
All right. Well, that's gonna be tough.
But we will have high hopes anyway, because that's what I have to do to keep myself sane, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll see what the return to offline does for like all these players, honestly.
Yeah, that's the big X factor, I guess, with all this.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird for them, I think.
It's gonna be very weird.
Yeah, yeah. The current plan is, yes, to have everyone there. There's I think the Wikipedia editor guy, HG Alpha, was talking about how time and Haas and the Chinese and Taiwanese guys,
Right, yeah.
they're having visa issues, which makes sense.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But as far as I know, everyone else, surprisingly enough, is going.
I'm amazed that Zest is here.
Yeah, me too. Well, he is too, I guess.
How the hell is Zest? Like, he got called to go to the military in 2018.
Yeah.
And here he is still somehow finding a way to get to Katowice when Poltz and who else? A couple of those players got cucked saying that they couldn't leave the country or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And now here he is. He's like gonna be 30 almost.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And he's somehow not out. I don't know, it's crazy.
He's Protoss' best chance though.
Yeah.
IMO.
Unfortunately.
See if he messes up in the finals again. All right. Yeah, so that was very in depth. Thank you very much. This was extremely helpful.
Sorry, I'm sure a lot of info, I know, but that's what you get when you ask me to talk about Trap, I guess.
Yeah, it's gonna be great when I don't get to cast any of his games and he bombs out of Group C.
Well, now you get to be smarter for whenever that eventually does happen, where you cast him again, and then you can be like, hey, I remember that cool thing. And then he doesn't do it, and then you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But seriously, it's very nice of you to get up all the replays and create this document. It's very impressive.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. I'll get all those replays together, the ones that I mentioned in there, to send over to you if you want to ever take a look at them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Just hand me your PayPal, and yeah, I might hit you up with questions if I have them. But otherwise, I'll see you later.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Have a good day. Enjoy whatever you're doing. I'll see you later.
See ya.
All right. Peace.